Welcome to the Infuse Your Future podcast, where we bring together people and ideas who are making the world a better place. I'm your host, Dr. C. In this podcast, you're going to hear solo episodes with various self-help topics. You're also going to hear guest speakers from all walks of life. If you're ready to experience the power of coaching, set up a complimentary 45-minute consultation with me at infuseyourfuture.com. And be sure to sign up for my mailing list for a free gift. Enjoy the show. Hey, everybody, a big welcome to today's guest, Annette Dernick. She's an expert for love and peace in companies. She's also a speaker, coach, mentor, and an author. She authored The Peace Factor. So welcome, Annette. How are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Carla, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be in your podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and what you do in the world?
Yes, I love to start with what I'm doing. So it's about love and peace in companies. My experience as somebody who has been working in companies and with companies for many, many years is that there is not very much peace and appreciation. And as I have learned that some of the things that happened in my life were connected to some traumatic experience, I really know why, for me, peace is so important. And for me, peace doesn't start somewhere very far away. Peace starts within me. And so this is really what I bring to companies. And I speak on this topic and also coach and support people to really have this peaceful and appreciative attitude in their companies. And I love to coach CEOs because they have the biggest impact on their employees. And when they really have this atmosphere of appreciation and peace, then employees really love to be committed, to be productive, to be creative, and thus the company really thrives. Customers love to buy there, and this increases the profit of the company and the well-being of the employees.
I really love that you're doing all of this. And I think your strategy of starting with the CEOs is brilliant, because when people study trauma, one of the things that they learn is many CEOs are a result of a trauma background. That's why they went so far. And so they tend to have a lot of that personality residue that they picked up along the way, and then they can pass down to their employees. And who doesn't work better when they're not full of toxic stress? So anybody that can go into a company and help a CEO turn toxic stress into positive stress, into confidence building and reinforcement, that's going to trickle down through your whole company and make everybody better. I know in the US, we have a saying called going postal, which is a horrible way to say the reality that some people get so stressed from the toxic stress at work that they take it out in violent ways at the workforce. So any way that we can reduce that is amazing.
Yes, and it really contributes to the well-being and to more peace of all of us, because if those employees come home in the evening and when they really really happy about what they experience at work, and if they talk about what they have achieved and what conflicts they have resolved, because conflicts are not the problem. The problem is how we deal with these conflicts. Then it has a very positive effect on the whole family. I remember times when I started working some years ago. When I came home in the evening, I was really kind of angry with my job, with colleagues, with distributors, with customers, and so on. And so the evening really started that both of us, we told us all the stories, those, let's say, bad stories that had happened during daytime. And that's really not a good energy. And when I changed my life and when I changed my own thoughts to more positive ones, my whole life changed completely. And so I really know what I'm talking about because I experience it on myself. And I also know it when I go to companies, when I do some team coaching. The team members, they understand each other much better, and they can also be very proud of the variety that they have in their teams. I love to compare this with a sports team. And if you only have, let's say, one type of player in a sports team, for example, only offensive player, the team won't win the game because you also need players who are defensive. And that's the same with teams in companies. And so I really love to work with them and to form a team that is as successful as a successful sports team.
I love that your messages start with yourself, because imagine, how can you get families or countries to stop warring with each other if you can't even get yourself to start warring with yourself? And it's not really the toxic stress that leads to success and becoming a CEO or a high profile person. It's the healing from all the trauma you've been through, not the trauma itself, but the healing from it. And it sounds like that's kind of what you do. Do you want to talk about how you take a company through this? Like, what is your process?
Yeah, so I always start with the first talk with the CEO, and I have a closer look on, let's say, what's on the surface, because many of those things are under the surface. And very often a CEO tells me, oh, this team doesn't work properly, come and fix them. I say, oh, that's not possible. I can't fix the team. I can have a process with them. And it's very important that you are there as well, that you talk with the team as well, and that we have the process with the whole team. So I prefer to love with the CEO first, if that's possible. And then with, let's say, the leadership team of the highest level under the CEO, and to already start with them, and then to really have a closer look what's really going on. And for me, it's enough to be present in a meeting, because it's not only verbal, it's also non-verbal things. Very often I have rules for the teams, because very often things start with very simple things. So for example, for some of the members, it's yes, very important to have the mobile phone switched off. And for others, it's, oh, I can still listen to what the other person is saying while answering my WhatsApps. It's not about me, it's about your team. And then when they have agreed the rules, then they hang it up in the corridor of the company so that everybody can have a look on them. And that's much different to many companies have what they call a vision of the company. And then they put it on the wall. And so it's so important to really have something that everybody agrees upon. It continues with listening. And this also might sound a little bit interesting, because everybody would say, oh, I am listening. But are people really listening? Are they really giving their attention to the person who is talking? Or do they already have their own thoughts in their head and to just try to find something to contradict what the other person has been saying? And so it's really very simple steps with which a team can improve their performance. And there are two techniques in communication that I really love a lot. And one is called iMessage. So it means that I'm not talking about what another person did. So for example, I'm going to tell my colleague, you didn't give me this information. Say it from my perspective. And then I say, I haven't received this information. And this really opens a wider space to get into communication, because the other person doesn't feel hurt. So that's one thing that I really love a lot. And the other one is to ask what I call open questions. So they start with the words like what, how, when. And yeah, I don't know how it is where you live. In Germany, I very often have the impression that people tell me why they can't do certain things. Instead of telling others why I can't do them, it's much better to ask them, what do you need to do it? What is your proposal? And then also to come a conclusion in this direction. And so it's really very simple things that all the teams can do to be more successful. And yes, it's also conflict resolving strategies, it's team building measurements, it's talk about team roles and so on. So it can go deeper. It's also talking about intercultural communication and how different cultures perceive information and so on. It's also about going deeper into project management. So there are many things that are connected to it. Most of it, it's really about conflicts, about misunderstandings. And
Do you feel like that you could summarize this by saying you find out what the company values and find out what that value means to each person? Say you have a project or a goal, and maybe the company would have a vision statement,
yeah.
but maybe that vision statement is different for each person. So to sit down and have kind of a brainstorming session where everybody tries to say, what does that vision mean to me? And then find out if that's getting in the way for anyone. What's getting in the way? And then how do you solve it?
Yeah, in my experience, it's that very often leaders of a company have a vision, and very often it's only about money. I know that everybody has to make profit, so that's not the question. If the goal is only about making profits, then the fixation is only on this monetary goal. And you also mentioned values. So I have experienced many companies and also nonprofit organizations who were not value-based. And to really start the discussion about the values is already a value for itself. And I am convinced that the old methods, how companies were led, that they will belong to the past. And so what are the new kind of methods? The first thing is really to appreciate everybody as he or she is, and to also know that we all have our specialties.
Yeah, I think certainly in the United States, I would assume in many countries, we do need to put the value back into companies. I know I'm in the healthcare industry, and that's one of the struggles that many doctors have. I'm not a teacher, but I have relatives that are teachers and friends that are teachers. Same thing happening with the education system. The
Yeah.
value piece is missing. And so we're losing good people in medicine, good people in education. I'm sure many other industries as well. And I don't want to demonize business and I wish this was taught more in families and in schools, because businesses have to be profitable or they will close. But there's also the important piece of creating value with your business. Be profitable, but be profitable with integrity, authenticity, honesty, and again, like you said, value creation. Because especially when you're talking about medicine and education, if you lose the value, you're losing a lot. I mean, you're losing the basis of it. Doctors take an oath to first do no harm. So when you're put into a situation where you're working for a company and they're telling you to do something that in your opinion creates harm, but in their opinion is creating monetary success, it becomes what we call a moral injury.
Yes.
And the stories that I hear about educators, the same thing is happening. Um, and the public school system isn't for profit, but the challenge is, how do we proceed and create value and avoid the moral injury dilemma that so many people in the US have, even if you're working for a corporation, right? At some point, many people will leave if they don't feel that the value is there in what they do.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I say that companies can increase their profits with love and appreciation and peace.
Mm-hmm.
Because when fluctuation goes down, then costs are reduced. And it is said that if you have to find a new person for this job, it costs the company between 30 and 100% of the annual salary. So cost decreases. The sick days also decrease, because if people are really stressed in the company, then they have burnout. When people are less sick, then costs are reduced as well. And when I look on the other side, where do we as customers love to buy from? We love to go to those companies and shops where we have a shopkeeper, where we have a shop assistant who really looks us into the eye, who just doesn't say some words because it's usual to say these words, but who really want to support me, who really want to be of service to me. And so if I am in such a company with the values of love and peace, then clients really love to buy there. So if we have reduced costs and increased turnovers, profit automatically increases. And so it's not counterproductive to be appreciative and peaceful. It's the other way around.
Now, so if a company wanted to hire you, what would that look like? Who would get in touch with you? What's that process?
So the best really is to work with the CEO. Sometimes I'm already contacted by people from the HR department who are looking for somebody to have a team coaching. That's fine as well, because my experience is that it is also possible to change something within the team without the CEO being involved. And at the same time, it really gives the team much more confidence. Very often when these teams are really working together very joyfully, and if they really have good ideas, this is a good example for the whole company. And I include really very different elements. So for example, mindfulness, sometimes meditation. For example, the project manager approaches me and says, we have a project which is due and we are not yet in our plan. So what can we do? So sometimes it's troubleshooting. And then we sit together and finding ways together, asking those questions. What can we do? What is the most important thing to really put it back on track? And very often the costs for a project that is being postponed are much, much, much higher than the costs for a coaching. And so also this creates value or saves the company money.
Yeah, I feel like that's one quality of a really powerful coach, is to ask the questions that other people are afraid to ask. If you could summarize everything that you said today down into 3 or 4 main points, what would those main points be?
If a company wants to be successful in this time of transformation, it's crucial to change the atmosphere in the company, to have more peace and appreciation, because this is profitable for everybody involved and the whole company and the employees as well.
And how do people get a hold of you if they want you to come in and resolve their company conflicts?
Yeah, they can find me on my website, which is www. and then my last name, DERNICK.EU like Europe. They can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm Annette Louise Dernick. I have a YouTube channel, and people can also put in my name, Annette Dernick, in the YouTube channel, because I'm streaming once a week in English and in German.
And do you work with companies all around the world, just in Europe, just in Germany?
All around the world, because I've seen challenges similar all around the world.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to me.
Hey, everybody. As always, thanks for listening, and I hope you got something fun and useful from today's episode. If you know anybody who would like to listen, please hit that share button to help us grow. Have a great day.